another amazing professional development series with Attollo Prep. My name is Madison. I'm the director of 12th grade programs. I'll be hosting this awesome talk today. Please allow me to introduce our amazing guest. We've got Dr. Lauren Miller, who is the executive director of the Lancaster County STEM Alliance. Can we please give her a hand?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Of course.
We're really happy you're here. So my first traditional question I always ask guests, and I love this one, is where are you from and what were some of your hobbies growing up?
Sure. So I'm from Lancaster County. I have lived here my entire life. My dad was actually a high school math teacher in Lancaster. Went to college here. Just knew I wanted to work and invest in this community. I just think it's such a special place. Hobbies growing up. I always loved being outside. I loved playing sports. I have to be honest, I'm not very coordinated, and so I always wanted to be really, really good at sports, and just like it didn't come naturally. So I really gravitated to individual sports like running and swimming, and I had a lot of success with that. So those were some of my hobbies.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Can totally relate about loving sports, not being super coordinated with it. So let's start. You've got so much interesting stuff to talk about. So let's start with your early journey a little bit. So you studied both geology and astronomy.
Yes.
Those are really, really fun fields. Also a very specific, fascinating combination there. What initially drew you to those fields? Like, what was the draw that really said that's what for you?
Sure. So I always knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a teacher. That was just a no-brainer. My dad was an awesome role model of what the power of a teacher can have in a community. So education was always in my pathway, but what I was teaching was very unsure. And I can remember I went to Penn Manor High School, and in 11th grade, two of just the coolest teachers in the whole school offered a summer experience where they took a small group of students and they took us to the Grand Canyon. And you could hike down into the Grand Canyon. We stayed there for a week. We camped out. And there was just something about that trip that was just so interesting to me. I thought the geology was so cool. The outdoor experience was so cool, the hiking. And that kind of like sealed the deal for me that I wanted to be an earth science teacher. And so I went to school to be an earth science teacher. I taught middle school earth science. I just thought that was such a fun subject to teach because it explains the whole world around us. And I was looking, I'm a continuous learner. I always love to learn. And so I was thinking, okay, I want to continue my education in what I'm just not sure. And I've never taken the easy path with anything. And so I explored different master's programs. And I thought, you know, I'm really passionate about geology. I think it's really interesting personally. I think it would make me a better teacher. And so I looked at different programs and found a master's degree at Westchester in Geology and Astronomy. It wasn't for teachers. This was meant for industry professionals. It was extremely challenging. The classes were in the evening, and I can remember teaching all day and driving an hour and a half to Westchester. Like sometimes my classes were 6 to 9 at night. And I did that for 3 years to get this degree. And so I was so proud of myself when I accomplished it because it was hard. It was very industry focused. I learned things that were well beyond what I needed to teach my middle schoolers, but I found it very, very interesting. And like looking back on that, I just think it's a really cool part of my story and part of my education.
I love that. And
Thanks.
that's super relevant for me right now as somebody who has a job during the day and goes to master's programs at night. So any tips are welcome there. But no, leading back into the science stuff, I love that experience with the Grand Canyon. Is there something that sticks out to you from maybe that moment or in your master's program, maybe a skill you picked up or some advice that really carried with you to your current position that you're in right now?
Sure. I think it's more about finding things you're interested in and finding passions. I just found that so interesting, that trip, and I wanted to understand why the Grand Canyon was formed and why did it look the way it did, and why are there Indian reservations in the canyon, and how are they getting their things and like their resources, like all the things about that I just thought were so interesting. And so I think what I learned is if you can find your passion and what you're interested in, the work and the learning just come easy.
Phenomenal. It's always good to love your job.
Yeah.
So with teaching, both at the middle school and the high school level, you then moved on to administration work as well. You've kind of been in all sorts of leadership roles. Is there something that the classroom specifically has taught you that you carried into those different educational positions?
Sure. So in your teacher preparation programs, if any of you ever go to be a teacher, they teach you all the curriculum and how to design lessons, but they don't teach you about the importance of building relationships with kids first. And I think that was my big takeaway is you can't teach anybody, whether right now I teach adults. You can't teach adults, you can't teach kids if you don't have a relationship with them first. And so my biggest takeaway from those years in the classroom is invest in relationships, make sure students trust you, that you're reliable, that you're somebody that they can go to. And once that relationship is there, then the learning happens. And so that's just, I've taken that with me in everything I've done.
Sure. And in those teaching spaces as well, sometimes as the educator, you're learning from your students as
Right.
well.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little about, is there a moment or a student in particular where you learned something from them in that relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I had a pretty easy childhood and pretty easy conditions that set me up for success.
Sure.
And I think I've had a lot of students over the years that just didn't have those same expectations set for them. I had parents who, expected that education was valued. They expected me to perform and do well. And that just isn't the case for everybody. And so I've always been really inspired by those students who maybe don't have all those structures in place and still find ways to thrive and have a positive attitude. I just learn a lot about your outlook on life and how important that is.
Yeah. And with that transition from the classroom to more administrative roles, was it hard to leave the classroom space behind? Was that something you knew you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I have to be honest, I never really thought that leadership would be for me. I always thought I'm going to be a classroom teacher forever. Everybody in my network had been in that same classroom for 35 years. Okay. And so, growing in education is just for a small few. And I don't think I ever saw that for me, but I had many mentors in my life that did see that for me.
Yeah.
And so I had multiple people over my tenure as a teacher who would say, hey, I see leadership skills in you. Have you ever thought about, maybe being a principal or working with curriculum or coaching teachers? And there were enough people that saw that in me that I didn't see in myself that all of a sudden I started to believe it. And so I'm so glad that I trusted them, not necessarily my own gut, and took that chance. And I feel like it's been really good for me.
Awesome. That's super relevant for Attollo as well, because we talk a lot about the power of mentors and being a support for someone else and being their cheerleader.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time maybe somebody believed in you or really pushed you to see that potential in yourself. What was that like?
I've had so many amazing mentors in my entire career, so I'll just pick one.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so Dr. Robin Felty, she was at one point the superintendent at Manheim Township. Maybe you interacted with her.
I had the pleasure of meeting her.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
wonderful.
She's just a lovely person, not just professionally, but also just as a person. She cares about her family, she cares about her community and her profession. I always just respected her as a person.
Yes.
And she was my supervisor when I was teaching science, and I just always looked up to her and thought she was an amazing person. And she was the one who came to me and said, Lauren, I see so many leadership skills in you. You should really consider a doctorate degree. I was like, a doctorate degree? No way.
Who,
and
me?
so, yeah, who, me? And so I think that moment always sticks out to me, and Dr. Felty is always somebody who sticks out to me. It's just an amazing female role model who had a major impact on my career.
Wonderful. I love that. Yeah, she's amazing. I met her during one of our Attollo programmings. She helped with our pre-med.
Oh, I love that.
Or at least came to spectate it. It was wonderful. Let's circle back to the doctorate degree.
Sure.
So yes, you earned your doctorate in educational leadership and change from Drexel, Philadelphia. Woohoo! Let's talk a little bit what that program was like for you. What did it open up for you? Is there some experience you had that was different from your master's degree in the past? Let's talk about that.
Sure. So as I shared, I am a lifelong learner. I am always trying to learn new things. And I think the advice I'd give to all of you right off the bat is that find an employer that also believes in lifelong learning and will pay for you to do that. So I was so lucky that, I paid for my undergrad degree, but I found employers that wanted me to continue my ed and paid for it. That is too good to be true. And so it was a perfect combo for me. So anyway, that's just kind of a side note.
It's still good advice for all of our scholars and staff out there.
Yeah, and so after finishing my master's, I knew I wanted to do something else. Sure. It had been a couple years, and I was getting stir crazy, what's next for me? And so honestly, I never thought a doctorate degree, that just seemed unattainable in some ways. And it was Dr. Felty who saw that in me, believed in me. She had done her program and just thought I would succeed in that. And she had even offered to kind of support me in anything I needed along the way. And so I think having her believe in me was step one. This passion to continue to learn and grow is really step two. And I never want to take the easy way. I could have done many different doctorate programs that would have been online. I wanted the most rigorous program that I could find that was connected to my passions, which is educational change, and that I knew would make a difference in my life. If I'm going to invest that time and my employer's money, I wanted it to make a difference. And so I did a ton of research, thought the Drexel program, just their approach to really innovative instruction was really cool. And so, so I took the leap and applied and was shocked when I was got in, and that was just like the most amazing experience for me.
Acceptances never stop feeling good.
Right,
whether
right.
It's undergrad,
feels really, really
doctorate
good.
programs. Yeah, wonderful. All right, so we've got a really strong educational background. We've got a foundation there. Let's now talk about the STEM part of your career. This is super exciting. So the Lancaster County STEM Alliance describes itself as a collaborative network of connecting learners, educators, and employers. Let's break that down a little bit. For someone who doesn't know, maybe in the audience or watching at home for this episode, who doesn't know what a STEM ecosystem is, can you break that down a little bit for us? Give it to us as like, what's the workings?
Sure. So the idea of an ecosystem, I'm going to start with, I do believe that healthy communities need healthy education systems. And the reason for that is a healthy education system creates really strong talent that fuels our employee base. And so if we have strong talent, we can grow our businesses. Businesses want to come here because our talent is so strong, and we can even create new businesses. It's good for everybody and good for our economy in Lancaster. So I really believe in strong education programs. I also believe that you can't have a strong education program in isolation. It can't be the sole responsibility of the teachers. It's just not possible. And so if you've ever heard the phrase, like, it takes a village, that's the idea of an ecosystem. To truly have a strong, robust education system, it takes all of us, community, nonprofit, government, families, all working together to support our young people and to support our education. And so that's really the philosophy behind an ecosystem. Lancaster has a really strong ecosystem, the Lancaster STEM Alliance. We've been around for about 10 years. And our goal is to help bring and unite the community and help them find ways in which they can get involved.
Sure.
So like a couple examples, during the school year, we have local businesses that might donate equipment to schools so that kids are using authentic industry quality equipment. We might have industry professionals that are donating their time to come work with students. You might see like businesses opening their doors and letting kids come do job shadows and internships with them. This summer, like just right now where we're sitting, within a quarter mile, there are so many programs happening right now through this ecosystem. For example, like Cargis, just a few blocks away, is running a computer science program right now with Elizabethtown College, where kids are working alongside Cargis professionals, getting college credits, learning basic computer science. And I could go on and on about what's happening right now at this moment in Lancaster, but that's the power of an ecosystem. What does it look like when we all come together? We all have something to teach. So how do we see that, and how do we all support our young people?
Wonderful.
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to look at like the next square mile close to us in such a different way now. That's awesome. Okay, so one of LCSA's core approaches is community-informed project-based learning. So let's break that down a little bit. We've got businesses and community problems becoming part of the curriculum for students and teachers, and also implementing teachers into these real-world spaces. Walk us through what this looks like as a student, whether that's an adult learner or maybe current students in the classroom. How can they engage in this kind of ecosystem?
Okay, so raise your hand if you have ever sat in a classroom and thought, when am I ever going to need this, and why does this matter? Okay, like I'm guilty of that as well, right?
And everybody's hand went up.
Everyone's hand. And so this whole idea of community-based, project-based learning is, how do we get that conversation out of kids' minds? How do we make it super clear that what they're learning in school is actually relevant and it's something that they'll use in the real world?
I love that.
And so this is one of the programs I'm most proud of right now in Lancaster County. Is we have teachers who volunteer and say, hey, I have a topic I teach that is so hard to engage students. I don't see the relevance. One example, not to throw math under the bus, but like linear equations. Like, how many times are kids like, when am I ever going to need this? And so like that's just one example. So a teacher may say, and throw out to the ecosystem, I'm teaching linear equations. How do I make that fun and relevant for my kids? And then the business community, we do an all call to the business community, and they'll raise their hand and say, hey, I have employees right now who use that skill every single day on the manufacturing floor or in a logistics plant. And they love what they do, and they're using those skills. And so how can I then partner the teacher with that business professional to make a project that teaches the curriculum, but also teaches it in a way that students can apply it in a real world context? It is changing what school looks like. And so like not just in math, but in all subject areas. And so like one of the projects that happened just this past year was the Smith-Stevens Museum for History and Democracy.
Yes.
So they were opening up and they were creating their exhibits. And they thought, what would it look like if we had kids' voices in designing these exhibits?
Okay.
So an English class at Ephrata Middle School took a bus, came here, they met with different professionals, learned about like primary sources, how do you share information in a museum setting. They worked with people from Lancaster history. And the students actually gave input into what would make an engaging exhibit. They were learning communication skills, written skills, like I said, primary and secondary sources. They're learning all the content, but they're applying it in a way that actually has meaning for them. And what the learning that happened was just phenomenal. Another really cool example, so Sod Metal Recycling, company in Columbia, they use the periodic table every single day. Do you remember learning about the periodic table? It was terrible, right? It was memorizing different things.
Noble gases,
yeah,
alkali.
that's actually pretty good. But I'm a
on it.
science person. I thought that was killer. And so what they're able to do is take kids out there and show them how the periodic table is used every single day
Sure.
in understanding metal, how we make alloys, how you price things, when you
Okay.
sell, when you keep. So those are like the types of project-based learning experiences that our ecosystem is developing for kids to make learning more relevant and more fun.
Nice. To be clear, I'm one of the English majors in the room, and I know there are other ones.
I was really impressed that you knew about noble
Do not
gases.
ask me to recreate the periodic table.
I was impressed.
Yeah, the more I'm thinking about this program, I'm thinking about also the good it can do for visibility for different kinds of roles.
Yep.
You know, museum work and curation and working with metals and recycling, they're not part of the traditional career paths maybe a lot of students are thinking about.
Yeah.
We will always need doctors, we will
Yeah.
always need lawyers, but I feel like this can open a lot of pathways for our kids.
I'm a big fan of you have to see it to be it. And so kids don't know that these jobs exist if they don't see it. And so for businesses, the benefit really is exposure to all the different career pathways in your company. My goal is I want kids in Lancaster to fall in love with our local businesses because you can do almost anything here in Lancaster. How do we grow our talent and keep our talent here? And you need to see it to want to stay.
That's super timely. We have a lot of college tours coming up with our students, and so one of our taglines for Attollo is you can't be it if you can't see it.
Oh, wonderful.
So we try to get them on campus, try to get them engaged, like they have to see this kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So with all of these wonderful programs you're working on, you've also got the Summer STEM Educator externship. That's the one where it's placing teachers inside of real businesses, correct? Okay. So what can a teacher gain from that experience? Maybe changes the way they return to the classroom. We talked about connecting them with real world businesses. On the education side of it, how is that like a transformative process?
Yeah, so a signature program of our STEM ecosystem is teacher externships. And these are actually happening in just a few weeks. The first week in August, which I think I have like 10 days. So this is like a big program for us. And what we do is we invite local teachers into businesses. And this year, they're going to be at Lancaster County Solid Waste Management Authority, Wenger Group, which is animal feeds. They're going to be at U.S. Boiler, formerly Burnham Holdings, and GSK Pharmaceuticals. And so what those companies are doing is they're opening their doors for a day, and they're allowing teachers to come in, take off their teacher hat, and truly work as an employee in that business. And I'm a former teacher, so I'm speaking just on my behalf, but I know I'm not alone. Many teachers, we love school, we went to school to be a teacher, and then we went right into the classroom. And so we know a lot of the theory of the subjects we teach, but we've never actually worked in the field or applied what we teach. And so the goal of this program is for teachers to see how their content actually applies in the real world. And the goal is that they take those lessons and they bring it back to their classroom and they can, tweak their lessons to make them more relevant. They can maybe partner with the business and build relationships with the people in that business to come work with their students. I think what I've seen, which was just, I wasn't expecting this through the educator externship, but it's happening, is that teachers are taking away the content. So like last year, we were advanced cooling technologies. Teachers were learning about thermodynamics. So they were taking that lesson, but more importantly, they were taking the lesson of what does communication look like in business? What does problem solving look like? What do those soft skills look like? And how can I make sure that my students are gaining those skills so that when they graduate and they enter these local businesses, they have both the soft skills and the hard skills to succeed.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm really passionate about asking about is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I feel like it's a really timely topic that a lot of businesses are thinking about these days. When we think about STEM, There's a little bit of stigma for people who might think it's not for them.
Yeah.
Maybe STEM is not a field that they might be interested in. When you're spearheading these programs and implementing them in the community, and you're realizing like we need everyone in these fields, what does that kind of access or invitation look like for a lot of people?
It's a really good question, and we have a workforce shortage, especially in STEM fields in Lancaster.
Sure.
And so every single person matters, and every single person brings value to a company. And so the strategy around how do I make sure that everybody feels like they belong in STEM, making sure that we're addressing underrepresented populations in STEM is a place I'm constantly challenged. And so I just want to lay that out there that like this is always in my forefront, and I'm still struggling for the solution. But I will say, when it comes to building people's STEM identity, we build our STEM identity really early in our lives. And what that means is I'm either good at STEM or I'm not good at STEM.
Yeah.
And you will hear little girls as young as 2 and 3 years old thinking math isn't or science isn't for them. And that is heartbreaking. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing is trying to provide as early as possible exposure to STEM experiences where students can find success and realize, okay, STEM is fun and I can do STEM. One program I'm really excited about with the STEM Alliance, we started this several years ago, is we provided really strong STEM curriculum, STEM materials, teacher training to every public school in Lancaster County.
Wow.
So that elementary STEM was happening regardless of economic status, regardless of the school's priority, like that was happening. And so that's really important, I think, when you start to build STEM identity.
Sure.
The other piece that's super important is how do we provide diverse representation in STEM fields?
Of course.
Again, to see it is to be it. And so how do I provide opportunities where students can see people that look like them in STEM fields to realize, okay, like I can start to build my identity and this is possibly for me. So really I'm focused mostly on like early exposure. Like how do I nip that STEM identity and build that quickly?
Sure.
The other piece, I think, and where we continually get it wrong, and this is the piece like I'm really grappling with right now, is so I want to provide lots of STEM opportunities for everybody, and I want to target underrepresented groups and invite them in. Simply providing the opportunity, inviting people in is not enough.
Yeah.
And so they need to trust the person that's inviting them in. They need to feel like they belong when they're in and that they're safe in that environment. And so I'm doing a lot of work right now with like culturally responsive teaching practices inside and out of school. And how do I make sure that the people that are providing these programs are making all people feel welcome and belonging in that space? And so that's a challenge, but that's kind of what I'm working on. The other piece, it's kind of off topic, but passion of mine right now is recruiting more STEM teachers.
Yeah.
We do not have enough STEM teachers in Lancaster County. And the challenge is you could be a math or let's say like a physics major. You can go into industry and make a heck of a lot more money than you could teaching. And so how do I incentivize STEM teaching? Because that's really the foundation. And how do I also diversify the STEM teacher pool? And so, I don't know, to be determined. I'll let you know how that turns out. But like those are some things I'm grappling right now around that topic.
Definitely make sure that teachers are in it for the love of the game.
Yep.
They love what they do, for sure. I love that answer. I can confirm it's working. I went to a Women in STEM event at the Science Factory when I was a kid. I went to Hempfield, so it's working. I promise.
Nice.
I promise. Okay. I want to wrap a lot of these ideas together now. We're taking education, we're taking business, we're taking community. A lot of your work is actually on the business side of things, convincing them to invest in these education partnerships. How is it that you make a case for this? Or what do companies gain from being involved in this like K through 12 STEM like intervention here?
So I will say this is the hardest part about my role leading our STEM ecosystem is how do I engage the business community?
Sure.
Because they're busy, they're understaffed, and it feels like one more thing. And so like I just want to be transparent, like that is really challenging for me. I think it's an easy sell and easier than I think I realize because it's impossible to not hear from either a small or large business in Lancaster that they're struggling for really strong talent. Everybody's dealing with that problem. And so I think the solution is looking at our young people. We can't keep thinking that we're going to just continue upskilling the people. Like we're going to run out of people. And so we really need to look at our high school students, our recent grads, and how do we engage them early? Like how do we build exposure to our careers? How do we let them know that our companies exist and what you can do in these companies? How do we grow our talent but like keep them here? And I think too, teachers want to prepare our kids for the workforce. We want to do the best we can, but we don't know if the business isn't telling us what to teach. And so we really need the business to help inform us in what's important to them. We'll do it and we'll get the kids there. And so I think that's the selling point. Like, you have a workforce shortage, we've got the talent, let's work together and make sure the talent knows about you and is ready to enter with a solid background.
Wonderful. Is there like I'm thinking like a misconception maybe that businesses might have about partnering with education or like schools in particular? Like, okay, why are we investing with kids maybe this young? Is there something that is like a hurdle for them, you think?
I think the challenge is their fire is burning hot right now.
Yeah.
And so they need to fill their workforce right now. And so the idea of getting off that hamster wheel of constantly searching for staff and like taking a proactive approach to, okay, let's actually like look 4 years ahead and think about like, where do we want to be?
When you graduate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that mindset shift. That's really the challenge.
Okay, mindset. Love that. So you are on the board for the Lancaster Clean Waters Partners. This is another fun part of your repertoire. This connects environmental stewardship to science education in particular, which is a really good like practical portion there. Can you tell us a little bit about the connection with maybe like clean water in particular? If this is like a really big part of what you're doing during the week.
So first I'll tell you, like, as you get involved in the community and build your career, you're gonna have to decide and be really picky in where you get involved, because it's easy to get involved in everything. And so I really had to be selective in what are my personal passions, but what also is the skill set I could potentially bring to an organization.
You've got geology, you've got astronomy, you've got a bunch of stuff going on.
Thanks. So I think like picking and being really selective of where you want to invest your volunteer time is important. And so Clean Water Partners was a no-brainer for me. First, Clean Water Partners is an ecosystem, but around people trying to protect our waterways. And so I learn a lot from being on that board, simply in what is collective impact and how do you run an ecosystem, because I'm trying to do the same thing with education. So I learn a lot from them just in the way that they're managing their partners and the way they're collecting data and so forth. But I think also I've always believed that education is the pivotal piece in any kind of community change. And so if we want to make change as a society, people do actions based on what they care about. And so how can I build people's interest in clean water, make them want to care, educate them in what clean water is and is not, and how we can be good stewards of our land? That to me is how we make our river systems better. And so I am the only educator on that board. And so I love, thank you, I love being like the voice of really, like, it's very difficult to make change if we don't start with education.
Yeah, really powerful point there. So for students who maybe are overwhelmed by the sheer amount of environmental issues that maybe you're faced with at the moment, is there any sort of like advice or insight you can offer for like how to maybe narrow your focus of like if there is one area they can get involved with, how do they start looking for those kinds of things? Give us your insight there.
I think we get overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, there's so many problems. Like, there's no way I can solve this, so I'm just going to do nothing.
There's wildfires in Canada. The air pollution is bad. Like, there's a lot to think about.
So it's easier to just say, I don't matter, and I'm going to do nothing. And I just want to kind of share that every single person, one small action makes a difference. And so as simple as, you know, planting native plants in your backyard is like something so simple makes a huge impact. And so I would just encourage you that every action does make a small difference, and it's the small stuff that adds up.
Nice. So as we shift our focus here to maybe some scholar insight and some advice, we talked a lot about the visibility of different STEM fields and maybe career paths. Is there a career path that you can think of that might be most surprising to students, that might not be advertised super much in school, something you are interested in that you want to bring attention to? What comes to mind?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just like really fascinated with live entertainment and what we have going on here in Lancaster through Rock Lidditz. And every single time I'm on campus, I'm like, I can't even believe that these people do this for a job every single day. And it is STEM. So whether it's building and designing stages, being like a rigger that's hanging lights, like there's just the coolest stuff going on. So I don't know, for some reason, live entertainment is like really resonating with me. So any like theater people in the audience?
Oh yeah, we recently had a professional development session with Rock Lidditz. It was wonderful.
Yeah, so I don't know, just that you know, our parents always say you can't make a living off of those types of things, and you can, and like Rock Lidditz is proving it.
Yeah. Okay, tech people, come on, theater tech. All right. So your career, kind of big overview here, moves between classroom, administration, curriculum, ecosystem. Like you've got a lot of fields going on here. For students trying to figure out direction, maybe with varied interests kind of deal, talk to us about the value of following that curiosity, maybe through like those different moments, the power of saying yes to things, maybe.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, go for it.
The power of yes. I would just say that it's more about what you're interested in and your passion than finding a direct career pathway.
I like that.
I can remember sitting in your seats feeling so overwhelmed. Like I kind of knew I wanted to be a teacher, but that was really my only exposure was my dad was a teacher.
Yep.
And so I remember feeling very overwhelmed, like how on earth am I making these decisions that are gonna impact the rest of my life right now? And so if I could look back and give you advice, it would be take advantage of every opportunity in front of you, follow the things that you are curious about and you're passionate about, but also explore things that you're not, because you may find something you had no idea you were interested and good at by just saying yes and taking an opportunity. There are a ton of opportunities here in Lancaster. I mean, the fact that you're even part of the Attollo program is an awesome opportunity. Keep saying yes, learn as much as you can, get out of your comfort zone, follow your passions, but try new things, and I think your career will come to you.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I feel like the natural progression of most of the interviews I do here, it comes from like a past to present look.
Yeah.
And then the end is future.
Oh,
so
okay.
looking ahead in your field and maybe the educational sphere is like a bigger force. Tell me a little bit about what you envision for the future of STEM education. Where should we be investing our time? What do you hope for in the future? What does that looking ahead look like for you?
Yeah, so I think we haven't really talked about STEM. So STEM, you hear the acronym science, technology, engineering, math. And I want everyone to leave that it's so much more than that. It's really about problem solving and creating innovative solutions to problems in our community. And so when I think about the future of STEM, I don't even know what that is because I have no idea what challenges are going to emerge. And so I think the ability to think critically, to be able to problem solve, I think those are the skills that will serve you the test of time.
Sure.
And I think regardless of what the challenges of our community come with, that mindset is how we're going to move forward.
Yeah. As we talk a lot about the misconceptions with STEM, do you think that narrow envisioning that we're doing about science, technology, education, math, do you think maybe that rigid mindset is hurdling or barring a lot of people out of the field?
For sure. So I think we have this misconception that you have to be like a nerd to be into STEM and you're using your calculator and wearing a lab coat.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be further from that. And even just going back to the rock lidditz example, that is all STEM. Like right now, as I shared, there's lots of cool ecosystem programs happening. PCAD right now is doing a program with a company called Ripple Hub where kids are producing music. That is STEM. And so I think if you're creative, if you're artistic, if you like to design, if you like to solve problems, that is STEM. And so yes, I feel like we need to expand. It's well beyond a lab coat and a calculator.
Nice. Aw, STEM holding hands with humanities.
I know.
So cute. I love it. All right, well, it is coming close to that time of the session where I do open up to audience questions. I know there are many people here who want to pick your brain about some things, so I'm going to pass the mics out. We're going to get through quite a few of these, left some good chunk of time here, and then I've got a couple of closing questions for you.
Sounds great.
Before we end our time together. So would anybody like to be our first victim for question sessions? Of course, let's pass the microphones back.
Hey, Doc Lauren, how's it going? Love the talk. I feel like I got to experience this in my field in a different way, and it absolutely, like you said, you see it, you're like, oh, I think I can actually do this. So it's really cool to see that, and I appreciate you talking about everything. I wanted to talk about how you educate people and talking about your background being in middle school education and then transitioning to adults. Very different transition, I'm sure. I wanted to know, because you talked about relationships were really key and important. What are some things that you have learned to do when educating adults that you think are very effective?
Yeah, I think I always approach, whether I'm working with students or adults, with a level of vulnerability. I don't know everything, and we're learning from each other, and I make a lot of mistakes. And so I really come in, not necessarily as an expert, but as a vulnerable thought partner, and we're working together to solve a problem or learn a new skill. And so I think the vulnerability has been really helpful for me. I think being true to myself, if I don't know something, I'm very honest about that, and we'll figure it out together. And I feel like that's taken me far.
I love that. A vulnerable thought partner. I'm going to steal that for the future. I like that. Yeah, it's good. Go ahead.
I see a question back there, but real quick, I'm just curious. You're really well-rounded. What are you reading? What are you listening to? Are there any book recommendations or podcasts that you're into that you would recommend to students and or our staff here?
So I'm like nerding out on very specific education books right now, so I don't know if that's all that helpful. So I'm like really into right now understanding student engagement and what gets students excited about learning. And so I have like a bunch of like very academic books, and I probably can't even recite the titles, but like that's my passion right now, is trying to understand how to motivate kids. I'm also like, just personally, I love like a trashy beach read because I'm using my brain all day, and so nothing makes me happier. So right now I'm reading Theo of Golden. Anybody read it? Oh, it's like such a lighthearted, amazing story. And so I also just love to at night read. That's how I calm my brain. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I also like really love trashy beach reads, so it's not all academic.
Trashy beach reads for all.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I was a little late, but I was just wanted to know, especially what you said there about it's about both of us learning. Like, it's about not only the student but yourself as well. Has there ever been a time with your background as a teacher and still working with the younger generation, the next generation, where a student's actually given you advice or given you something that you've taken in your career and run with it?
I mean, anything technology related. So I can't tell you how many times, even like on my personal cell phone, I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I'd have students helping me and coaching me with that. So I think they've always been my technology gurus. And they're always challenging me with really good questions that I don't have the answer to, that makes me like research. I used to teach a whole unit just on environmental sustainability. And they would be like peppering me with tons of questions to understand, because they want to be in stewards of their environment. So I would have to do a ton of research in the evenings, and it was fun. But I feel like just always asking me questions and trying to understand forced me to learn, to be able to teach to them. But yeah, they were always further ahead of me when it came to technology.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Any other questions? Yes, I think in the back.
Hello. Thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate you. My question goes back to when you were talking about the teachers and how you bring them into the workforce. I'm curious how you initially came up with that, and also what was that partnership like, and how did people initially respond to that?
Yeah, so great questions. So I was actually a middle school teacher, and one of our local businesses had actually reached out to the school and said, hey, we want to partner with the school and we just don't know how. And so I can remember a group of science teachers went and just toured the industry. And it was my first time on a manufacturing shop floor. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is really cool and really interesting. I had no idea. And then we got into a conversation about, like, what do you look for in an employee? I was like, how have I never had that conversation with somebody as a teacher when I'm preparing the next generation of workers? And so I think that experience definitely was instrumental in my understanding. And I thought, how cool would it be to get other teachers into other businesses? Because like I said, we have taught our entire lives. All we know is the four walls of a classroom. And so teachers really gravitate to it. So the ones that we're offering just coming up in August, teachers are doing this on their summer break. They are not getting paid extra to do this. And they're choosing to do it because they are so interested in what the world of work looks like, and just understanding what opportunities there are for their students in the community. It was really funny. Last year we had teachers welding. We had teachers like hanging press plates to make LMP. We've had teachers doing such wild things, and I think they leave and tell those stories to their students, and then all of a sudden their students want to understand and know more about that business. So it's been a really cool experience.
It's like teacher summer camp.
I know, it really is. It really is.
Perfect. I think we have time for 1 to 2 more, and then we'll wrap up together. So if anybody has other ones. Yes, over on the side.
Thank you so much for sharing your life journey. And look forward to hearing what you do in the future. Having 8 grandkids, ages 16 to 2.5, I already see their engagement with AI. So I'm very curious how you see AI playing into supporting creativity and not robbing the children of their own creativity.
That's a really good question. And I don't have a good answer. Like, I'm definitely not an expert in that. I think my approach right now with AI is I'm using it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to be important to teach students how to use it. I think how to use it in a way that still embraces their creativity, but they're able to leverage it as a tool. And so, yeah, I'm still trying to like wrap my mind around that. I will say, like, the approach I'm taking right now around AI is I want students to understand data, and I want them to understand big data sets and how AI is a predictive model that's using data, because I think that's going to be where the work is, and I think that's what they're going to need to understand. I don't think we can ever ban AI. It's going to be used no matter what, but I want students to understand how AI works. I want to think about potential jobs that companies might have that are going to be like highly AI focused. And I want to prepare them for that. And so data literacy seems to be like kind of where I'm honing in terms of workforce development with AI.
I love that. All right, let's do one more and then we will wrap up our time together.
I have a question. If somebody else.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much. This was really inspiring. I'm from the Conestoga Valley Education Foundation, and we like to encourage STEM programming. We give out grants to teachers in our district for all kinds of different subjects, but we really encourage STEM. So I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to really like encourage and inspire those grants to come in. Like how do you help teachers come up with these great ideas for STEM programming?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the first would be helping teachers understand you don't have to teach science, technology, engineering, and math to apply for a STEM grant. We have had some really cool art teachers, English teachers, music teachers that are doing high-level STEM, and I think like they don't realize that a grant would apply to them. So I think opening that is a really strong idea. I think also like communicating with other, like collaborating across content areas and coming together to write a grant is really powerful. So I think more collaboration. I will say just as a side note about the education foundations, we just recently contracted with a company to produce some video content on what does community and education look like when they work together. And so we went to 4 different school districts. Conestoga Valley was one of them. And I wasn't even there, and I just saw the final produced video. And every single school mentioned their education foundations and how they have drones in library class because of the education foundation. They have, robotic equipment and iPads because of their education foundation. And so I just also want to say, like, thank you to the foundations and thank you to the community that's supporting those. School budgets can't sustain all of those like really innovative high-tech pieces of equipment. And so philanthropy is a huge piece, and then businesses like donating industry-based equipment has been a win. But I would just really encourage that all teachers are really STEM teachers, and how can you work together on a cool project?
All teachers are STEM teachers.
All
I
teachers,
like
yes.
that. I feel more confident about my relationship with STEM now. This is so good. All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions from the audience. I've got a couple of wrap-ups for you before we unfortunately have to end our time together. So when we talked a little bit about the future of STEM and what you envision for that, on a more personal note, what gives you hope? We talked a lot about some doom and gloom areas with environmental science and the future of AI being super murky.
Yeah.
What brings you hope? What do you look forward to right now?
I think this room right now, I think the students are in this room, programs like Attollo, we have such an amazingly invested community here in Lancaster. And I think we don't realize it until you go elsewhere. And so I meet with a lot of other ecosystem leads across the state and even nationally, and they're always like, what's happening in Lancaster and what's the secret sauce is what they always ask me, like truly. And when I think about that, and what gives me hope is we have an invested business community. We have a long way to go, but we have a lot of businesses that are invested.
Yeah.
We have an amazing philanthropy backbone here in Lancaster. We have amazing out-of-school providers like Attollo, our public library, Ripple. I mean, I could name tons of nonprofits that are doing amazing things. And we have a really strong K-12 school system. So I think what gives me hope is what's possible when we continue to all collaborate, because we have all the structures in place to continue to be amazing.
Perfect. Wonderful. Okay. outside of work, now we can take a relaxing note. We can talk a little bit more about the trashy beach reads.
Yeah.
So you're an avid runner. You love the outdoors. You love reading.
Yeah.
What does time outside on a run do for you? Is there a place in Lancaster County you keep coming back to? Talk to us a little bit about the unwinding process.
Sure. So running for me has always been my go-to from even a really early age. Like, I'm not coordinated at all. So running seems to be like the only activity
Individual sports.
that works for me. No, but it's more about mental health and physical health for me. When I'm feeling stressed or trying to process an idea, there's nothing better than a run.
Yeah.
100% of the time I come back and I feel better, I feel lighter, I have a clear head, like open heart. So that really does great wonders for my mental health. My husband and I love going to Peckway. I love running in Peckway. I just love running along the river. I like trail runs. And then our thing is we always run and then get a cheesesteak.
I love that.
It's like, it's my thing.
I have to ask the follow-up question.
Yes.
Do you do it the traditional Philadelphian way to eat a cheesesteak, or are you a non-purist with the cheese?
I'm non-purist. I like American cheese.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. Try not to side-eye you
Yeah.
for the rest of the interview. Okay. No. Okay. On a nice, lighthearted
Yes.
note, talk to us a little bit about final notes you'd like to leave our scholars with. So we've got a lot of young people in the room right now, young professionals in the room
Yeah.
as well, even the broader community that'll be watching this episode when it comes out next week. Woohoo! Leave us with your final thoughts of maybe inspiration, encouragement. What is something that we can look forward to keep going?
Sure. I would leave you with the advice of find a mentor. Doesn't matter what stage you are in your career, find a good mentor. Every single pivotal moment in my career has been because of a mentor. And when you're looking for a mentor, you don't necessarily want to just find somebody that's connected to the work you like. Find somebody who you respect as a person, both inside and outside of work. Every transformational learning experience always roots back to a mentor for me. Speaking of a mentor, my most recent mentor used to carry around a card in his wallet that said, "Be great every day." That's another piece of advice that at first I was like, that's impossible. Nobody can be great every day. And great looks different every day. But this whole idea of having high expectations for yourself and always striving for greatness every single day and showing up with that mindset, I think really leads to success. So those would be my 2 pieces of advice.
Thank you so much for that.
Of
I have
course.
so many wonderful words of wisdom I'm going to take with me
Oh,
from
good,
this interview.
good.
I'm sure our audience does as well.
Good.
This does conclude our time together.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. Can we get a
course.
final round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you.
And we will catch you all in the next episode. So thanks
you.
for being here, guys.